In the late 1970s, a dark and vicious killer stalked the hills of Los Angeles. As the body count rose, police struggled to identify the perpetrator who would become known as one of America's most brutal serial murderers. This shadowy figure was Kenneth Bianchi, whose year-long rampage alongside his cousin Angelo Buono left a trail of unspeakable crimes in their wake. The media dubbed them the Hillside Stranglers, a nod to their modus operandi of kidnapping and strangling young women in the hills near Hollywood. While Buono initiated their horrific killing spree, the insecure and impressionable Bianchi quickly came under his sway. Together they unleashed a whirlwind of violence that left the city gripped by terror. This is the chilling story of Kenneth Bianchi and how an aimless young man became the malevolent Hillside Strangler, whose vicious attacks shocked Los Angeles and the nation. Strap in for a disturbing descent into the mind of a remorseless killer who, along with his menacing cousin, earned his place among the most ruthless monsters in American history. In the shadow of the bustling city of Los Angeles, a young man named Kenneth Bianchi found himself at a life-altering crossroads. Born on May 22, 1951, in Rochester, New York, his life story began with turmoil and uncertainty. Bianchi's birth mother, a 17-year-old sex worker grappling with her own demons of alcoholism, made the heart-wrenching decision to give him up for adoption just 2 weeks after his birth. This early abandonment set the stage for a life marked by a desperate search for identity and belonging. The Bianchi family, Nicholas and Frances Scioliono Bianchi, stepped into this void, adopting the infant and bringing him into their world. However, the semblance of a normal upbringing was marred by troubling signs that emerged as Bianchi grew. From a tender age, he exhibited behaviors that caused concern. Most notably, as soon as he could form sentences, Bianchi's tendency to weave intricate webs of deceit became apparent. His adoptive mother, Frances, was the first to note these disturbing patterns, observing his compulsive lying, which seemed to stem from a deep-rooted need for attention and validation. This penchant for fabrication was just the tip of the iceberg. As Bianchi navigated his childhood and adolescence, his behavior grew increasingly erratic and concerning. His mother, vigilant and worried, consulted with doctors, seeking an explanation for her son's unsettling episodes, moments where he would stare blankly, eyes rolling back, lost in some unfathomable trance. These episodes, dismissed by medical professionals as mere phases, were early indicators of deeper psychological issues that would later manifest in more sinister ways. Bianchi's adolescence was punctuated by instances of sexual deviancy, marking the beginning of a disturbing pattern that would escalate in severity. At the age of 12, he committed his first known act of sexual misconduct, a troubling incident involving a young girl. Despite these early warning signs, Bianchi maintained a facade of normalcy in some aspects of his life. He dated, participated in social clubs, and even married his high school sweetheart, Brenda Beck. However, this marriage was short-lived, dissolving after just 8 months, adding another layer of instability and rejection to Bianchi's troubled psyche. By 1976, Bianchi, then 25, found himself at a crossroads, with a string of failed jobs and a broken marriage behind him. It was at this juncture that he made a fateful decision to leave behind his life in Rochester and move to Los Angeles. Drawn by the allure of a fresh start, he joined his adopted cousin, Angelo Buono, in the City of Angels. Little did he know that this move would mark the beginning of a dark and twisted path. Buono, a charismatic but deeply disturbed individual, exerted a significant influence over Bianchi. In the underbelly of Los Angeles, Bianchi found himself drawn into a life of perverse sex and violence, a world that Buono navigated with ease. This sinister partnership between the two would soon unleash a wave of terror on the unsuspecting city, as Bianchi's latent tendencies were nurtured and magnified under Buono's twisted tutelage. As Bianchi acclimated to his new environment, the stage was set for the heinous acts that would later shock and horrify the nation. The transformation from a troubled youth to one of America's most notorious serial killers was underway, a journey marked by deception, violence, and a descent into darkness from which there would be no return. In the year 1977, the vibrant city of Los Angeles, a melting pot of dreams and aspirations, found itself in the grip of an unprecedented nightmare. The once bustling streets, alive with the promise of Hollywood, became the hunting ground for a predator whose actions would leave an indelible mark on the city's history. This was the year Kenneth Bianchi, alongside his cousin Angelo Buono, embarked on a chilling spree of crimes that would earn them the notorious moniker the Hillside Stranglers. The duo's descent into infamy began with a sinister pattern of abducting, torturing, and murdering young women. Their modus operandi was as brutal as it was consistent, kidnapping unsuspecting victims, subjecting them to unspeakable horrors, and then discarding their bodies like refuse on the hillside. The first of these victims was Yolanda Washington, whose tragic end set the tone for the terror that was to follow. As the body count began to rise, the city's sense of security shattered. Each new discovery of a victim brought with it a wave of horror and disbelief. Eyewitnesses recounted chilling tales, glimpses of women being led away by men who, with the confidence of authority, flashed police badges. The testimonies painted a picture of calculated deceit and cold-blooded efficiency, leaving the public paralyzed with fear. The media played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative of these heinous acts. Journalists, grappling with the gravity and horror of the situation, dubbed the perpetrators the Hillside Stranglers. This moniker, while capturing the essence of their heinous acts, also added a layer of mythic terror to their identity. The name echoed through the media channels, amplifying the fear that had gripped the heart of Los Angeles. Amidst this growing panic, the reactions of the citizens were a mix of fear, anger, and an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Women, in particular, found themselves looking over their shoulders, their nights plagued by nightmares of becoming the next victim. A female business owner expressed the collective dread, "All at once I was afraid the way I've been afraid since these stranglings started. I never used to be afraid before." Such statements were a common refrain, encapsulating the pervasive atmosphere of terror that had enveloped the city. As Bianchi and Buono continued their rampage, their methods grew more audacious and their selections more random, sending shockwaves through the community. No one felt safe anymore. The Stranglers seemed capable of striking anywhere, at any time. The city, once a symbol of hope and opportunity, had become a tableau of fear and despair. This period marked a dark chapter in the history of Los Angeles, a time when the city's sunny facade was overshadowed by the cloud of a lurking evil. The Hillside Stranglers didn't just claim the lives of innocent women, they stole the city's sense of safety, leaving behind a legacy of fear that would linger long after their reign of terror was brought to an end. As the year 1977 drew to a close, the question on everyone's mind was the same: who were these fiends, and when would their reign of terror be brought to an end? Little did the city know, the answers to these questions would unravel a tale of deceit, madness, and a disturbing glimpse into the darkest corners of the human psyche. As 1978 dawned, the Hillside Stranglers' reign of terror showed no signs of abating. The city of Los Angeles, once a beacon of glamour and opportunity, had transformed into a landscape of dread and suspicion. The community's trust and safety was irrevocably shattered as more victims fell prey to the sadistic whims of Bianchi and Buono. The duo's heinous acts were characterized by a chilling deliberateness. They preyed on the vulnerable, often choosing victims who were young and defenseless. Each abduction was a meticulously planned operation, exploiting the trust of their victims with masquerades of authority, luring them into traps from which there was no escape. The brutality inflicted upon these women was not just physical but also psychological, a twisted game of dominance and control for the Stranglers. As the body count increased, so too did the media frenzy. Newspapers and television reports were awash with the grim details of each new discovery. The Stranglers' methods were dissected and analyzed, their every move scrutinized in an attempt to understand the madness driving their spree. The constant media coverage only served to heighten the public's fear, turning the Stranglers into near mythical figures of evil, omnipresent, and seemingly unstoppable. The atmosphere of fear was palpable. Women changed their daily routines, avoiding the streets after dark. Parents kept a closer eye on their children, fearful of the lurking danger. The city was on edge, its usual vibrancy dimmed by a cloud of anxiety and paranoia. The question on everyone's lips was a desperate plea for resolution: when would this nightmare end? In the midst of this turmoil, the Los Angeles Police Department faced immense pressure. The public demanded answers and action, but the elusive nature of the Stranglers made their capture a daunting task. The police, despite their best efforts, found themselves chasing shadows, the killers always one step ahead. The investigation was a race against time, with each passing day bringing the potential for another life to be brutally cut short. As the Stranglers continued their macabre dance with death, the toll on the city's psyche grew heavier. Los Angeles, a city synonymous with stars and success, now found itself in the grip of something far darker. The Stranglers had not just murdered individuals, they had assaulted the very soul of the city, leaving a scar that would take years to heal. It was a time of collective mourning and fear, a period when the City of Angels found itself looking into the abyss. The Hillside Stranglers had become more than just murderers, they were the embodiment of a city's darkest fears, a reminder of the evil that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. As the year progressed, the desperate hunt for the Stranglers continued, the city holding its breath, waiting for the moment when justice would finally be served. The resolution of this horrifying chapter in Los Angeles' history was eagerly anticipated, a longing for closure and a return to a semblance of normalcy. But the shadow cast by the Hillside Stranglers would long linger, a haunting reminder of the fragility of peace and the enduring impact of unimaginable terror. In the late 1970s, the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, faced one of its most daunting challenges, apprehending the Hillside Stranglers. The investigation into these gruesome murders was fraught with difficulties, a testament to the cunning and ruthlessness of the perpetrators. The lack of advanced technology, which today is a cornerstone in solving complex crimes, was a significant hurdle. Detectives relied on traditional methods, canvassing neighborhoods, interviewing potential witnesses, and piecing together the scant evidence left at crime scenes. The pressure on the LAPD was immense. The public's fear and outrage demanded swift action, but the leads were frustratingly few and often led to dead ends. The Stranglers' methodical approach to their crimes left little in the way of forensic evidence, and the absence of digital databases or DNA profiling meant that investigators had to rely on more rudimentary methods of detection. As the investigation progressed, the police faced the daunting task of sifting through countless tips and suspects. The media's intense coverage of the case only added to the pressure, with every move of the LAPD scrutinized by a city desperate for answers. This media attention, while helpful in keeping the public informed, sometimes led to misinformation and panic, further complicating the police's efforts. Amidst these challenges, a turning point came when detectives began to piece together a pattern in the killings. The victims, all young women from various backgrounds, shared certain similarities in the way they were abducted and murdered. This pattern provided a crucial clue in profiling the killers, leading investigators to surmise that they were dealing with a serial predator, or possibly a duo, operating within the city. Another breakthrough came from meticulous detective work and the use of traditional police methods. Witness statements, although initially seeming inconsequential, began to form a clearer picture when cross-referenced with other evidence. The discovery of tire tracks, fabric fibers, and other minute clues at different crime scenes gradually led investigators closer to the perpetrators. The big break in the case, however, came from an unexpected source. Bianchi, in an attempt to continue his crimes in Washington, left behind critical evidence that linked him to the murders in Los Angeles. His arrest in Washington for similar crimes was the catalyst that brought the entire horrifying saga into focus. Upon his arrest, Bianchi's past began to unravel, revealing a trail of deception and violence that stretched back to Los Angeles. His association with Angelo Buono, his cousin, became a pivotal piece of the puzzle. The intricate web of lies and cover-ups that Bianchi had maintained for so long began to crumble under the weight of the evidence against him. As Bianchi's facade collapsed, the LAPD, along with the Bellingham police in Washington, began to close in. The collection of physical evidence, combined with Bianchi's increasingly erratic behavior and eventual confessions, painted a clear picture of guilt. The once elusive Stranglers were finally within the grasp of justice, bringing a sense of relief to a city that had been held in the grip of fear for far too long. The culmination of the investigation was a testament to the dedication and perseverance of the detectives involved. It highlighted the importance of traditional police work, even in the absence of modern technology, and underscored the tenacity required to solve such a complex and disturbing case. The downfall of Kenneth Bianchi, a tale marked by hubris and fatal mistakes, began to unfold in Washington. No longer in the company of his cousin and accomplice Angelo Buono, Bianchi attempted to continue his heinous acts alone. However, this time, his actions would lead to his undoing. In January 1979, the Bellingham Police Department received reports of two missing university students, Karen Mandick and Diane Wilder. The investigation quickly led to Bianchi, who, under the guise of a security guard, had lured the young women with a false promise of easy money for house sitting. Bianchi's capture was a turning point in the case. It was his mistakes in Washington that provided the crucial link to the unsolved murders in Los Angeles. The police, armed with evidence and eyewitness testimonies, pieced together the chilling narrative of the Hillside Stranglers. In Bianchi's apartment, investigators found incriminating items, including a California driver's license and jewelry belonging to victims from Los Angeles. The facade that Bianchi had so carefully constructed began to crumble, exposing the grim reality of his crimes. The trial of Kenneth Bianchi was a spectacle of legal maneuvering and psychological scrutiny. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Bianchi resorted to an unusual defense. He claimed to suffer from dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder. He alleged that a separate personality, Steve Walker, was responsible for the murders. This defense, however, did not hold up under the weight of expert testimony and forensic evidence. The court saw through Bianchi's attempts to evade responsibility, and his claims were ultimately dismissed as a manipulative ploy. As the trial progressed, Bianchi, perhaps realizing the futility of his defense, made a deal with the prosecution. In a bid to avoid the death penalty, he agreed to testify against his cousin, Angelo Buono. This decision was a pivotal moment in the case, as it not only provided critical testimony against Buono but also marked Bianchi's admission of guilt in his own heinous acts. The sentencing phase brought a semblance of closure to the harrowing saga of the Hillside Stranglers. Bianchi received multiple life sentences for his crimes, a decision that was met with a collective sigh of relief from a traumatized public. The court handed down 6 life sentences to Bianchi and 1 life sentence without parole to Buono, ensuring that the men responsible for such unspeakable violence would spend the rest of their lives behind bars. The trial and sentencing of Kenneth Bianchi were more than just the conclusion of a legal proceeding. They were a moment of reckoning for a community that had been terrorized by unimaginable cruelty. The case of the Hillside Stranglers, with its complex psychological underpinnings and dramatic legal twists, left an indelible mark on the American justice system and the field of criminal psychology. In the aftermath of the trial, Bianchi's legacy was cemented as one of America's most notorious serial killers. His attempt to escape justice through a fabricated mental illness was seen as a chilling example of the depths of manipulation and deceit that characterized his entire spree of violence. The capture and trial of Kenneth Bianchi closed a dark chapter in the history of Los Angeles, a city that had been shaken to its core but could now begin the long process of healing and recovery. The aftermath of the Hillside Strangler case reverberated far beyond the walls of the courtroom, deeply impacting the lives of the victims' families and the Los Angeles community. The sentencing of Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono brought some measure of justice, but for many, the wounds inflicted by their heinous acts were far from healed. Families of the victims were left to grapple with the painful reality of their loss, their lives forever altered by the cruelty of 2 men. The community, too, struggled to regain a sense of normalcy, the shadow of the crimes lingering over the city like a dark cloud. In the years following his conviction, Bianchi continued to make headlines, not for repentance, but for his persistent attempts to overturn his conviction. These efforts, viewed by many as a further affront to the victims and their families, were met with skepticism and disdain. Bianchi's audacity in challenging the justice system was seen as a continuation of the manipulative and deceitful behavior that had marked his criminal career. One of the most bizarre chapters in the saga involved Bianchi's interactions with Veronica Compton, a young playwright who became infatuated with the convicted killer. In 1980, in a twisted plot reminiscent of Bianchi's own manipulative tactics, Compton attempted to exonerate Bianchi by murdering a woman and planting evidence to suggest that the real Hillside Strangler was still at large. This plan, however, was doomed to fail, and Compton was subsequently convicted of attempted murder. Her involvement with Bianchi and her subsequent conviction added another layer of notoriety to an already infamous case. The Hillside Strangler case also had a profound impact on the field of criminal psychology and profiling. Bianchi's defense of dissociative identity disorder, though ultimately unsuccessful, brought attention to the complexities of mental health in the context of criminal behavior. The case became a subject of study for criminal psychologists, providing insights into the minds of serial killers and the factors that drive them to commit such atrocious acts. Moreover, the investigation and trial highlighted the importance of psychological profiling in solving complex crimes. The LAPD's eventual success in apprehending Bianchi and Buono was in part due to their ability to understand the psychological makeup of the killers. This understanding was crucial in piecing together the evidence and narrowing down the list of suspects. In the years following the case, advancements in criminal psychology and profiling have continued to evolve, partly influenced by the lessons learned from the Hillside Strangler investigation. These advancements have proven invaluable in solving numerous cases, helping to bring justice to victims and prevent further tragedies. The legacy of the Hillside Strangler case is a complex tapestry of pain, justice, and scientific advancement. While the scars left by Bianchi and Buono's crimes remain, the case also stands as a testament to the resilience of the victims' families, the dedication of law enforcement, and the ongoing quest for understanding in the realm of criminal psychology. As the final chapter of the Hillside Strangler case comes to a close, its lasting effects on society and the justice system remain profound and enduring. The story of Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono is not just a tale of unparalleled brutality, but also a narrative that underscores the resilience of a community and the relentless pursuit of justice. The case left an indelible mark on the city of Los Angeles, altering its landscape forever. It served as a grim reminder of the capacity for evil that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. Yet, in the face of such darkness, the strength and resilience shown by the victims' families and the community were nothing short of heroic. Their courage in the aftermath of tragedy, their unwavering demand for justice, stands as a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome even the most harrowing of circumstances. Remembering the victims is paramount. They were not just names in a case file, they were daughters, sisters, friends, each with dreams and aspirations cruelly cut short. Their memories serve as a powerful reminder of the preciousness of life and the duty of society to protect and cherish it. The Hillside Strangler case also holds a significant place in the annals of criminal history. It catalyzed advancements in criminal profiling and forensic science, shaping the way law enforcement agencies approach and solve complex cases. The investigation's challenges highlighted the need for more sophisticated methods in crime detection and prevention, leading to innovations that have since been instrumental in bringing other perpetrators to justice. In the broader context, the case prompted a societal introspection about the nature of evil and mental illness, sparking discussions and debates that continue to resonate. The psychological profiles of Bianchi and Buono, their motives and methods, have been studied extensively, providing valuable insights into the minds of serial killers. As we reflect on the Hillside Strangler case, it's crucial to recognize its impact not just on those directly affected, but on the very fabric of our society. It is a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, the value of advanced investigative techniques, and the enduring quest for justice in the face of unimaginable adversity. In conclusion, the legacy of the Hillside Strangler case extends far beyond the confines of a criminal investigation. It is a story of tragedy, resilience, and the ongoing effort to understand and combat the darkest aspects of human behavior. As we look back on this chapter of history, let us remember the lives lost, the lessons learned, and the enduring spirit of a community that stood firm in the face of terror. Of Los Angeles.